speaker slips at the moment, but we do have one raised hand. Minutes to speak. I'm sorry, Pat, we don't seem to be able to hear you. If you can wait for one moment.
They're unmuted.
Hear us?
Pat, can you hang on a few moments? We can sort of hear you, but there's still an audio problem. They're working on it. My apologies. Can you hear us? Okay. Pat, go ahead. Can you say something?
Hi, I'm sorry, we're dealing with some technical difficulties. We'll try to fix this in just a moment. Thank you for your patience.
Can we hear him out of your laptop?
Can we run it through your laptop and put the speaker to it?
It'll be an echo.
I can just put the microphone. No, I can't put a microphone by speaker. Is that?
We can try it.
It was there and it's soft.
Do you want us to try it?
It is. I don't want
Do you want to try it? Again, just the sound, the speaker?
you can see him talking.
We don't have speakers on this side.
Yeah.
Yeah, muted, Zoom's muted. I feel like it was with a speaker. For a second, I heard it coming out of the speaker really, really quietly after after we had everything plugged in. Yes, correct. And Tom 16 and the game's up.
I can try it.
Nothing wrong.
Pat, can you try speaking again?
Yeah, it's not that bad. Yeah, we can hear you. We're just gonna put a mic. Hold on one second. Yeah. Yeah, we can hear you. 1 second. We're just gonna get another mic closer. Okay. Yes, we can hear you. Can you hear us? Do you want to talk? Yeah.
pretty disappointing. Just want to point out that it is my hope that you have followed through on with the Board of Supervisors establishing a full-time Attorney General or whatever that person is called to investigate on your behalf, issue subpoenas for documentation and records and so forth, so that you can get on with what civilian oversight commissions are meant to do, which is assess what's going on, call in people to explain what went on, what's happening, what's going to be fixed, in what way it's going to be fixed, instead of well, that's what oversight committees do. Issue subpoenas and get records and call people to account or hold people accountable. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, seeing no one else online and no one else in the room, I am going to move on to now get a motion to approve our agenda if there's no amendments or changes.
So moved.
Wait a second. Thank you. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Great. All right, now moving on to a motion to approve our meeting minutes. I want to thank our member Rebecca for working to get all of these on here and approved.
Oh, you heard my office community affairs staff, Jennifer.
Yes, sure. So I'm going to turn this over to Jennifer first. Is there anything you would have to add for meeting minutes before we work to approve them? No? Okay, any comments? No? Okay. Oh, well, first, before you make a comment, I was wondering if there are any public comments.
Members of the public, if you wish to comment on agenda item number 4, please submit a speaker slip to the clerk or use the raised hand feature on Zoom. There are no public comments.
Turning it over to you, Rebecca.
Jennifer, thank you for doing these minutes. I did one meeting.
Rebecca, do you mind speaking a little closer to the microphone, please?
Okay.
It is on.
It is on.
Rob's is working.
All right. Jennifer, thank you for doing the minutes. I did one of them, and one of the things that I think is really important to have in the minutes is what was discussed, what were some of the important issues, and also, are there any next steps? Are there any actions and identifying who's going to do the action? So whether it's something that we're asking a commissioner to do, or someone from the sheriff's office, or someone from the county, it would be really good to have whatever the next steps are. That's my comment.
Okay. So, and that's for future minutes. Are there any additions or changes to any of the minutes listed for the August 21st, September 4th, September 18th, October 16th, November 6th, November 20th, or January 11th meetings? Go ahead, Shirley.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I don't think this is working.
There you go. There you go.
Okay, good. I would like to add on the January 11th, the values that the drawing of the value statements of the commission. I think that was very useful that we came up with at the retreat. And then I do have a question on going back to August 21st. First of all, thank you for getting minutes. I really appreciate having the minutes. I think they're quite good. There's a comment that the potential for San Mateo County to receive $400,000 for voting operations in the sheriff's office and in the elections department. I think that would be wonderful, but I don't remember the elections gentleman saying that it would be, that any of that money would be focused on the sheriff's department, and I was going to have that as a recommendation. So I just would like that to be clarified, whether or not that's true. I hope it is. Those are my only two comments. And then it's
August
on
21st.
August 21st.
And on what
And
page?
it's on number 5, under presentations, the last 85.
Page 3.
Page 3. 85, 54, the second bullet. And then, I don't know, on the mission statement was attached at the back of the minutes.
I think that was just part of our overall.
That's just
package,
over,
yeah.
okay. There was just one correction though, on that one.
So for the AB 55, it says there's the potential. So it doesn't say that it's guaranteed, it says that there's a potential. So I think.
That's okay, okay?
I mean, for
I
me,
hope it's true.
Yeah, it's the potential for it to be true, which I think was what was said in the meeting. That may be different now, but on the date that this happened, it was just a potential, so I'm okay leaving it as is, and leaving it, like, opening up to anybody else for any other comments on that one.
Thank you.
We can, but I think we can, for something for us, just for our knowledge, we can look up and see where the status is now. Yeah. More direction. That's just my opinion. Is that okay with you, Shirley?
Absolutely.
Okay.
No, I'd love for this to happen. So,
Okay.
I'll be supportive.
So I don't think, so right now where we're at is that we don't have any change on August 21st. We have the addition to January 11th. We have that recorded. Anything else? No? If there are no other recommendations for changes, can I get a motion to approve the minutes with those recommended changes?
Motion to approve.
Second.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any noes or nays? Any abstentions? Fantastic. Okay, great. Thank you, everyone. Okay, so now we're going to move on to welcome and introductions because we have some new folks joining us at this meeting. So first, our Board of Supervisors, there have been new assignments. I mean, the members aren't here, but is there anyone here that's going to talk about that? Okay.
2000.
Jackie, are you want to pop up to the podium
Aquí en Marisol, desde el podium.
so they can see?
Hi, everyone. My name is Jackie Rigoni. I'm the Chief of Staff for Supervisor Noelia Corzo, District 2. We are super excited to be assigned to this commission. We've been trying to stay informed of the progress you all have been making since the inception, and just want to say we look forward to working together with you. Thanks for your work thus far.
All right, thank you.
Hi, everybody. Good evening. My name is Marisol Escalera, and I work with Supervisor Ray Mueller. It's a pleasure to meet all of you and to have you here, giving of your time, being committed toward this cause. Supervisor Mueller has an event tonight, and I'm really happy to be here representing him. So feel free to say hi to me whenever you get a break. But I'm really happy to be here. Thank you.
Thank you. And then our for Sheriff's Office representatives, did you want to come up and introduce yourself to George?
Good evening. My name is George Dale. Is this on? I am a contracted employee for the Sheriff's Office, and I've been asked to be the liaison. I think my official contract title is Civilian Engagement Liaison. I was involved in the creation of the CARE program, and I'm doing what I can to facilitate communication, so I'm here to take notes and chase things down and see what I can do to help.
Thank you. So now turning it over to our commissioners, are there any questions or any feedback that you want to pass on to our new reps? Questions? No? Okay. Any public comments?
It's now time for public comment for agenda item number 5. Please submit a speaker slip or use the raise hand feature on Zoom. There are no public comment at this time.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, so we're going to move on to the next item, which is a presentation on the current process role of Inspector General. So I'll turn it over to our Deputy County Executive.
Great, thanks everybody. I just also wanted to comment that we have two great aides and also a good representative from the Sheriff's Office. But we love working with Jackie Rimoni and Marisol through their offices, so glad that you guys are here. So at the retreat, there was some questions about the Inspector General process that the county has established. When the Board of Supervisors authorized the formation of this commission, it also currently authorized the establishment of a bench of on-call Inspector Generals who could be called upon to conduct investigations, analysis, any other function that they're tasked with performing. This kind of combination of creating this body and the on-call Inspector General pool came after, and some of you were involved in this and know it all too well, after at least a couple of years of analysis of different models that exist within the state and outside the state, and following testimony and information gathering, including from national experts, local experts, advocates, stakeholders, the Sheriff's Office. Basically everybody who had something to say on this topic was heard, and there was an extended study session. The board considered having a permanent Inspector General as one of the options, but elected to establish this bench. They instructed the CEO's office to conduct an RFP to do that, and we complied. So in 2024, we issued a request for qualifications that went out throughout the state, and actually I think out of the state as well. We received 5 proposals that were qualified, and each of those proposers were selected. They primarily consist of law firms or individuals who have experience as Inspector Generals in other localities. So I can just give you the names of them. There's the law offices of John Alden. That office was previously the Inspector General for Sonoma County. Maybe currently, but previously at least. Atkinson, glasses, hold on 1 second. Andelson, Loya, Rude, and Romo. This is a law firm that has extensive experience representing governments and folks conducting investigations into police matters. Integra Assure, another similar organization, Oppenheimer, and the Renee Law Group, which has extensive experience conducting investigations and analysis of public practices. The thought of the Board of Supervisors was to have a number of people available with slightly different experience and expertise, so that if a particular issue arose, we might call on the right firm. Also, if we have multiple issues going concurrently, which occasionally happens, we could utilize multiple inspector generals to complete the tasks. This model, prior to the establishment of this bench, already existed in the county, which included the work of Judge Cordell. She's not on the current bench. She did not submit for that, but she conducted work in essentially the same role previously for the County of San Mateo. So that's sort of where we are currently with the Inspector Generals. The way the process works is it's initiated either by the Board of Supervisors or the County Executive's Office. Would be a vote of the board to authorize an Inspector General to conduct an investigation into something or to analyze something to do with the Sheriff's Office, and that would move forward. This body is able to make recommendations to the board to enlist an Inspector General to look into something related to the Sheriff's Office, and we'll see, if that occurs going forward.
Sure. Thank you so much. Opening up for questions. Go ahead. Rob.
Thank you. Adam, who would make, with the finalists, who would make the final choice? Would it be your office that would make the final determination as to who would handle a particular investigation, or would it be in a rotation manner where sometimes the courts do that, where cases come in and they assign them to particular judges on some type of a wheel or something? So how would they be assigned?
It would be through the CEO's office to determine the selection. I think that we would probably not operate on just a wheel. We would take a look at the particular issue and see if any of the on-call inspector generals have experience with that particular issue, and then request proposals from one to whoever could complete the work in a timely fashion. Yes, sir.
I had a question as well. It's that booming voice, I guess. As far as the panel is concerned, does the county hold them on retainer, or are they just paid per investigation?
Yeah, we have. Cautiously, I speak. They're all on contracts that will be activated via task orders. So once we identify, John Alden Group, and they give us a proposal for what it would take to complete an investigation, we would execute a task order and draw that down from our overall contract value. Yep.
Go ahead.
One last thing is that it'll be a part of our regular and ongoing process to make sure that this body is informed in the event that the Board of Supervisors activates an Inspector General to conduct some action, whether it be obviously through your recommendation or otherwise. We're going to make sure we circle back so you're all very well aware of what's happening in terms of ongoing investigations.
Go ahead, Rebecca.
It's on. I have a question about how the report from Judge Cordell and recommendations that are there, and potentially other investigations that are needed. I'm wondering if there's work already being done on that, and if not being done on that report, then how does that get initiated in terms of prioritizing? And it seems that there were a lot of recommendations and a lot of things to investigate. So I'm just wondering, with the report that's already been done, because the judge was not an inspector general, but you said sort of operated that way by doing a report. So what happens with that report and the inspector generals?
I think the Inspector Generals will function sort of in the same fashion as Judge Cordell functioned typically. If there's something that came out of Judge Cordell's report that required additional investigation, that's certainly something that this body could take a look at and recommend that be followed up on through a subsequent investigation. So yeah, that's how it would work. Go ahead.
Okay, so that makes it sound like an investigation has already been done, and that the community's been asking for an established Inspector General working with the Sheriff's Office. And your response makes me think that the idea is that an investigation has already been done, and there might not be a need for anything else. I don't know. I'm not sure what all you mean.
I'm not making any comments on whether or not additional investigations need to be done. It's just, as far as Judge Cordell's investigation to those particular things, that's finished. If there's things that arise out of that you all are interested in, think that should be investigated further, and you want to consider making a recommendation to the Board of Supervisors that they either enlist Judge Cordell to just follow up on something, or they hire somebody else to follow up, that would occur. I hope that's responsive. I feel like I might be missing the point of your question.
Well, I think as I'm hearing this, because for many, many meetings, we've been saying Inspector General is needed for the county, for the sheriff. But all along now, there's been this panel, this pool of Inspector General. The report was done by Judge Cordell. It feels like there's just been a little bit of maybe not really clear communication that while community has been saying we need an Inspector General, and yes, we knew that there was a report coming out by Judge Cordell, it's almost like it wasn't really being addressed the same way. Like, yes, we are on that, we're doing it, we're going to be investigating.
Got it. I think I understand. A portion of the community, when this matter initially went to the board, was calling for the establishment of a permanent office, almost like a separate department within the county that would do continual ongoing investigations into the operations of the sheriff's office versus an on-call contracted Inspector General. And the Board of Supervisors selected to have this pool of on-call folks. I think many of the public commenters would have preferred the establishment of a permanent office, a permanent identified individual to conduct all sorts of work in an ongoing way. And so that's why they've been coming. I shouldn't speak for them, but that's my understanding, is that's why they've been coming. They would have preferred a different model that is not an on-call Inspector General. So I think folks were aware that there was a bench and an ability to initiate investigations, but they would prefer the permanent model.
Well, one of the other issues that came up is if there's a complaint against the sheriff's office, where do you go? Whether you're in the department or outside of the department, where do you go? And the answer when we've had people here is you go to HR, so that you're kind of asking the sheriff's department to do their own investigation. So I think that's where this other part that's not really like on call, but it's that people need to know that there's a place that they can go if something has occurred in the sheriff's office. So I think that's the other thing I want to bring up.
So I'm going to take this one because I think this part was, oh my gosh, so this part was in response to when we had the retreat. This is one of the items that we chose to look into was the establishment of an ongoing Inspector General that would be specifically assigned to the sheriff's office. And then the question was, well, what is currently done with inspector generals? And so that is what's being reported on now, is what's currently done with inspector generals. And I think you're talking about, Rebecca, is more in line with what Michael and Alexis are going to be looking into, which I'm going to be talking about in a second. The next agenda item is the recommendation to do what you're talking about and what we've been hearing. Is that clear? Okay. All right. So unless there's any other questions about what we are currently doing and what the current process is for inspector generals. Nope. Any public comments?
Members of the public, if you wish to make a public comment on agenda item number 6, please use the raise hand feature or submit a public comment or public speaker slip to the clerk during this time. We do have 2 speaker slips. If we could have Bill Newell come up to the podium, he will have 2 minutes to speak.
Well, good evening, everyone on the commission. Again, thank you so much for everything you've done and you continue to do, working hard to help establish oversight. And tonight we're talking about specifically a permanent inspector general who would have subpoena power. This has been something that's been a part of an ongoing dialogue between members of the community organizations, people such as myself, the Coalition for a Safer San Mateo County, Fixing San Mateo. The importance of a permanent inspector general with subpoena powers is a model that has been striven for in other oversight models in other counties. I think some of that information has been shared, provided to you for study, and certainly people in the community organizations will be happy to provide more resource information if that's needed. I'm here to say that there's a need for a permanent inspector general who will look at policies, practices, trends, incidents, complaints, etc. With a permanent inspector general, you have a proactive, independent model that can respond to issues before they arise. So you take note of where things need to be addressed before you have issues, but also to be very responsive in situations where you do need a quick response that's independent with subpoena power when that's needed, when information may need to be obtained that is not coming through voluntarily. I want to recognize and commend the committee for making looking at an inspector general as one of your top priorities, and I know what you're doing is you're analyzing the outcomes of establishing an inspector general program to build community engagement and trust. I'd just quickly add that since that decision was made by county board, there's been members of the county board and others who have called for a permanent inspector general. Thank you.
Our next speaker will be Drew L., and then we'll move on to public comment on Zoom.
Good evening. Is it working? Cool. Perfect. Right, so, yeah, I just want to add on to sort of the pros and cons of like permanent versus like on-call, like inspector generals. I think like one big thing that we got to worry about when it comes to like having people on call, like what happened with Cordell, is the sort of importance of like the impartiality of the inspector generals, right? I think with Ms. Cordell, I think if you look at the report analytically, and I don't want to sound rude here, it wasn't a good investigation for like a few main reasons. A lot of opinion in the conclusions that were made, right? That's like a big thing. There were, I think she stated sort of in her own words that like the evidence she was basing sort of the recommendations on was kind of tentative, right? A lot of it came down like timing and whatnot, and there wasn't like enough cold hard material that was like immediately like released to the public, right? I think when outside inspectors are involved, there's a pretty big like incentive to come out with something that sounds important and that is actionable. Actionable, right? Because if it's not actionable, that might make you less of like a sort of, it might make you less of a standby, right? Like if you come out with a like several 100-page report that like isn't all that doesn't really have any effect within the county, you won't look as cool, basically, right? So there's definitely some room for sensationalism with outside investigators. And also, for some of the other reasons that were discussed, they're only there for sort of the most noteworthy occasions, right? And that's time.
We do have one more public comment on Zoom. Tab Willard, if you can unmute, can you speak when you're ready?
Hi, can you hear me, please?
Yes, I can hear you.
All right, thank you. I'm the founder of Peninsula Anti-Racism Coalition. About 2 years ago, we researched across the nation civilian oversight commissions. Commission, a strong word as opposed to an advisory body that had full-time inspector generals and who provided great assistance and leadership to the members on the commission. When the commission heard of such things as surveillance issues, violation of policies, extracurricular activities, quote unquote, of deputies, the inspector general was able to issue subpoenas for all of the information that the commission members decided to see and basically drill down and get testimony from all involved. Testimony also came from, as I listened to some of the meetings themselves, members of the public who felt law enforcement abuse of power or retaliatory actions for complaints when someone complained about them, so on and so forth. As I like to say, San Mateo County has now entered the real world. We're no longer a little burg around Northern California between major cities of San Francisco and San Jose. We have real problems now. We have people who abuse their authority.
Mr. Willard, that's time.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
There are no more public comments.
Thank you. So unless there are any other comments from this body, okay, I'm going to move on to our next presentation, which is on the process should the sheriff's position become vacant. So I'll turn that back over to our county attorney's office. Thank you.
I'm going to present that to you now. Okay, so if the sheriff's office position becomes vacant, who will act as the sheriff in the immediate term? So under the California Government Code, which is part of state law, if the office of the sheriff becomes vacant, the duties of the sheriff shall be discharged by the undersheriff, or if that position is vacant, by the assistant sheriff, or the next chief deputy in line of authority. And this is only permitted until the vacancy is filled as provided by law. So basically, this is in the immediate term. The moment the sheriff's office becomes vacant, the sheriff is removed or no longer serving for whatever reason, the next person, the next most senior person in the office would step up immediately to fill the gap. Okay, so But that's only a short-term solution. The Board of Supervisors is not allowed to sit back, do nothing, and let that person just continue to act until the next election. So the board shall fill by appointment all vacancies that occur in any office that are filled by the appointment of the board and elective county officers, except for judge of the Superior Court and the supervisors. So the appointees shall hold office until, for the unexpired term, or, and this is going to be us, until the first Monday after January 1st succeeding the next general election. So in the short term, the next most senior person in the office would serve until the board acts to fill the vacancy by appointment. Okay, so, and that's until the next general election. So the meaning of that is the next election for governor in the state, which is slated for November 23rd, 2026. So the board would appoint somebody to hold the office until the next person was sworn in, would be sworn in after the gubernatorial election, Monday, January 5th, 2027. So this is what I was saying before. The board must act within a reasonable time to appoint someone to fill the remainder of the sheriff's term. There's no definition of what a reasonable time is, but the board may not, through inaction, allow the person temporarily performing the sheriff's duties to continue performing those duties for a protracted period of time. And that's, that sort of citation means that someone asked this question of the Attorney General's office, and the Attorney General did research and offered a written opinion about how it should be done. So that's what the Attorney General's office said. So the board may not just allow the undersheriff to carry out the sheriff's duties until January 2027, and the board also cannot call a special election to fill the office before November 2026. So in the short term, you would have the undersheriff, then the board would appoint somebody to fill the vacancy, and that person would serve at least until January 5th, 2027. Okay, so the bottom line, if Measure A passes in March and the board then votes to remove the sheriff, the undersheriff temporarily serves until an appointment is made. The interim sheriff appointed by the board would serve until January 5th, 2027. At the time of the next governor election, on 11/23/26, the voters would elect someone to serve out the remainder of the sheriff's term, which ends in 2028, or it went until the election in 2028, until January 2029. Does that make sense? Clear as mud.
Go ahead, Mike.
Okay, so once the undersheriff, let's say, takes over, or whoever the next in line is, will it be up to the Board of Supervisors to determine what the process will be for selecting the candidate? Is that something that's established?
Yes.
By the
So
Board of
one
Supervisors?
thing they can do is just, they can actually do it however they like. So they can put it on the agenda. They can say, does anybody have a suggestion of who it should be? Yes. I suggest person A. I suggest person B. Let's vote. Okay, we pick person A. Done. Or they can do interviews. But if they do interviews for candidates, that has to happen publicly.
I have a question.
1 second. Rob's up next, and
Rob.
then you, James.
Go ahead, James.
Oh, go ahead, James.
Oh, thanks. So it seems like the next person up, right? And then there's a process. Could the undersheriff be that person who's
Yes.
selected?
Yes.
So that person, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As to the requirements, is there a job description for the sheriff? I know there's state statutes that require certain training, experience, and education, California Post. Is there anything that's written in county as to what an actual job description is involving the training, education, and experience, and any specialized training like Command College or FBI National Academy, and to require senior police managers? Is there anything other than
You mean other than what's required by state law, does the county have special requirements?
Exactly.
I don't know the answer to that, but I can find out.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other questions on this? Nope. All right, open it up for public comment.
It is now time for public comment on agenda item number 7. If you wish to make a comment, please submit a speaker slip or use the raise hand feature on Zoom. We have 2 speaker slips at the time. I'd like to call up Deacon Lauren McCombs to the podium. You'll have 2 minutes to speak.
I'm a little frightened. Hopefully it's not going to backfire. Good evening to all present. My name is Deacon Lauren Patton McCombs, and I'm currently serving at Christ Episcopal Church in Portola Valley. I'm a member of Fixing San Mateo. Currently, many deputies within the Sheriff's Office are having feelings of anxiety, intimidation, and fear. This toxic work environment for our deputies is unhealthy, who are entrusted with protecting the safety within our community. If the sheriff's position becomes vacant with the passage of Measure A, then I cannot stress enough the importance of creating a healthy work environment for our deputies and other staff in that department. And I would personally like to thank each and every one of you for your continued commitment to serving our county and the important work that is before you, that is to establish trust and transparency within the Sheriff's Office for the betterment of our community, as well as the work environment within the Sheriff's Department. And I hope that I will not offend anyone by this, as I'm going to now say a prayer. I recognize we all come from various faith traditions, no faith at all, whatever, but I feel at this time a prayer would be appropriate, coming from my heart. And it's attributed to St. Francis. Lord, make us instruments of your peace. Where there is hatred, let us sow love. Where there is injury, pardon. Where there is discord, union. Where there is doubt, faith. Where there is despair, hope. Where there is darkness, light. Where there is sadness, joy. Grant that we may not so much seek to console as to be consoled, to be understood as to understand, to be loved as to love. For it is in giving that we receive, it is pardoning that we are pardoned, and is dying that we are born to eternal life. Thank you very much for allowing me to do that.
Thank you. Next comment.
Thank you. Nancy Goodman, you have 2 minutes to speak.
Thank you. And thank you all for all the work that you've been doing the last 6 months and your commitment to this process to help the Sheriff's Department run more smoothly. So my name's Nancy Goodman. I'm with Fixin' San Mateo County, and I live in Redwood City. It breaks my heart to know that the employees in the Sheriff's Office are working in such a terrible, unhealthy environment. I cannot imagine working in an organization where I and all my coworkers have lost confidence in our boss. When I worked, my boss always had my back, and that was really important to know that I would have some support. They don't have that. No one is there to protect them. Honestly, that's why I plan to vote for Measure A as a former supporter of Christina Corpus, and I worked hard for her campaign. But I also want to thank the deputies, the sergeants, the lieutenants, the captains, and the civilian employees for going to work every day to keep the public safe in spite of the turmoil that's going on all around them, and in spite of the fact that they don't really have a functional boss. They deserve better. They deserve a good and strong, healthy working environment so that they can go home to their families in peace and so they can have healthy interactions with the community. I would ask that an important quality in any new sheriff that's appointed by the board would be to be able to build supportive relationships with employees, both sworn and civilian, have good teamwork and leadership skills, and have experience with successfully implementing positive policing. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments?
I believe we might have one more public comment. I'll take public comment on Zoom. If anyone wants to make a public comment on agenda item 7, please use the raise hand feature. We don't have any at the moment on Zoom.
Is it on this item? Oh, it's on 8.
Okay, so no more public comments.
Oh, that's okay. All right. So we're going to move on to item number 8, and that is the adoption of our priorities. So I just want to comment and first thank everyone for coming in on their Saturday and spending time here together to do the work that, you know, this is the reason why I joined this body, is to actually do some work to help with the community's feeling of safety and integrity within the sheriff's office and to build bridges and connection. So I'm happy that we're able to spend time talking about that and actually being able to spend time talking and learning more about each of you and your whys. I felt like it was a very good way to spend my free time on a Saturday. Because it, you know, when I give up my Saturdays, that was a lot. So what we have here is just, I think, before we make a motion to adopt, I think I've just, if everyone, because I can't remember who's assigned to each team, just going through each one, and if you just want to speak briefly about what you're looking, like what your overall topic is, community, for example, community and staff engagement, what you're actually looking into and what are your work items on, especially if you filled out your sheet, like what are the topics on your sheet that you are working on and who's responsible for them. So I'm going to start with the community and staff engagement. Who's on that team? That's Shirley, Rebecca, and Rob. Okay, so do you want to have a spokesperson, anyone that could just give a brief synopsis of, or if everyone wants to give input, just giving a synopsis of what you're working on and your action items? Hold on one second. You have. I'm on 8.
Right, but the draft work plans is agenda item 10. So it was priorities and then work plans. They're two separated.
Okay, so what are we supposed to be doing here?
Adopting just the priorities.
Just
the topic.
right, but so I can't have them speak on the topics?
You can.
Yeah, okay. So that's right. Okay. Okay, so go ahead.
Okay, so it was just our 2-hour, it was about 10 minutes that we put this together. On staff engagement, it's community and staff engagement to identify the needs of communities and stakeholders. And so we came up with basically 4 activities. And the first was to identify 3 neighborhoods by service calls, complaints, incarceration rates, and develop forums there. We would give this to the ICAC staff. Our timeline to identify the neighborhoods would be April. And actually, it's very wonderful. Fix It San Mateo gave us all the resources of the community groups, because we identified like Thrive, NAACP, city councils. And so we want to identify the areas. That's the first one. The second one is to develop 3 open-ended questions plus an exit survey, because we want to do community forums. And so again, the commissioners and staff would identify these, would develop the questions and set up both questions and exit survey. And then the third is to actually set up the meetings, publicize, work within community organizations, and when necessary, have translators available as well. Again, ICAC staff, and we would be working with our partners would be the community groups and the translators. And we wanted, one of our outcomes would be to have a minimum of 3 meetings with at least 25 citizens at each, and to list their concerns, suggestions, and also review their exit surveys. And then the last would be to hear from the Sheriff's Department staff and to invite union representatives. We could do that here at one of our meetings. And again, we would like to do this by May of this year. And we're talking about the San Mateo Labor Council and other unions that represent the Sheriff's Department employees and present to the commission.
Thank you, that's great. Anything else from the other members that you want to add?
Yeah. Shirley did great. Thank you. I have a dead mic.
Oh, there he goes. Now was it?
Rebecca, did I get everything?
There it goes.
There it goes.
Yeah. Did you also say desired outcomes? Did we do desired outcomes?
No, we did not.
Okay.
I
I think the overall desired outcomes were community forums, survey, which you did say. Yeah, okay. I maybe just had it under another category, but yeah, that sounds right.
All right, thank you. So the next group is my group, Transparency and Accountability, which is myself, Michael, and Alexis. Did you guys want to talk about any of the items that we're working on? Or we don't have to go into too much detail because we're at the next action item. It's on now.
I left all my notes at home.
Anything?
Yeah. I laid my binder down to get my coat, and
Oh, no.
yeah, I left my binder.
No, so I can just say really quickly that our group and
Can you cover it?
Yeah, we're going to cover it more, but it's really our transparency and accountability, focusing on specifically transparency around the post-Measure A plans, whatever happens with that election, plans for what happens next, and further looking into an inspector general specific for the sheriff's office. And we'll talk about that more in a minute. Okay. And so the next item is approved communication between inmates and families, and I believe that's James and Bill. Yes.
There we go. Yeah, so just a couple bullet points real quick. Bill has some additional information where we break down some things, but we really talked about mail receipt, really wanted to study what other agencies or departments are doing so we can have a better understanding of what options are out there, how we may be able to duplicate some of those things so that our incarcerated persons can have more access to mail and communicating with their families. And then talking about increasing, the safety of staff, what are the risk factors currently. So really getting some information from our sheriff's office about just things and hazards that they are currently experiencing, and hopefully getting some numbers if those things have been reduced as a result of shifting practices, and if not, again, why are we installing practices that there aren't any benefits to? And then just really evaluating overall opportunities to increase the overall communication between our incarcerated persons and their families, really looking at lots of other opportunities as well and seeing what we can bring.
Thank you so much. And so opening it up for any clarifying questions, but I thought, I know we have another item to have a little bit of a deeper dive into our plans, but also to talk about next steps and some hard timelines. But before we had a motion to adopt, I thought it would be a good idea for us to review. So just to remember, because that Saturday was a little while ago, and for members of the public to just hear what we are going to be voting on, like what we're adopting. So before we do that, if there's any questions from any of the commissioners about what anybody said or any clarifications, go ahead, Rob.
May I do a deep dive with some of the jail law recommendations? There were some issues involving long-term maintenance of some of the interior facilities, like elevators didn't work, fire alarms didn't work, that type of maintenance issues, and that's kind of a deep dive relative to more of an effective type problem area.
Which group were we talking about?
When we were talking about the jail aspect.
Oh, for the improved, for this is improved communication?
Well, when we were talking, Bill was working on the jail part. And
So they're just so we stay on agenda, their topic is improved communication. So they're focusing on communication. Is that?
Okay, I thought
yeah.
we had mentioned jail, okay.
Yeah, okay.
We can go back to that.
No worries.
Thank you.
So, okay, so are there any other questions? No? Okay, I'm going to open up a public comment.
Members of the public, if you wish to speak on item number 8, please use the raise hand feature or submit a public comment card to the clerk at this time. We do have one speaker slip. If I can have Drew L. come up to the podium.
Hey, how's it going? So I don't want to sound like I'm being rude here. I do think the sheriff's department does already have its own sort of internal procedures, whatever you can say about those. But it has its own internal HR system, right? I think the more pressing matter for this commission is mistreatment of members of the public by members of the sheriff department, right? And I can't caution enough. This commission can't be in practice aligned with the deputies union, because at times it's going to be members of the deputies union who are mistreating and violating civil liberties of members of the public. Some of the things that the union, for example, will say, and some of the things that associates of the union or deputies who are members of the police union say regarding incidents of potential violations, they will have to be taken at face value, right? There does have to be as high a degree as possible of independence there. Thank you.
Thank you.
We do have one raise hand on Zoom. If I can have Pat Willard begin when you're ready.
Yes, thank you. I agree 199% with the previous speaker. Your role as a civilian oversight commission is to ensure that the behavior of law enforcement officers under the sheriff behaves appropriately, respects the community at all times, and does not abuse its intended purposes and powers. As much as it would be wonderful to have a pleasant and rewarding and shared experience, hugs and kisses, picnics together, so on and so forth. You are the last measure for the public to be able to share the challenges it endures by those law enforcement officers who treat them as some other than treated as, because they're not law enforcement, they're suspect, and we're suspecting them of doing something or preparing to do something until we realize and recognize otherwise. I'm a black male. I'm very conscious when I am within range of a law enforcement officer. Every time I do that, I look at their gun and then I think about what might happen if I do something wrong or appear to do something wrong. And I do rehearse. Please give me a few more seconds. Rather frequently, I rehearse what I will do when
Pat, that's time.
over. Thank you, Kalima. I just wanted to say that this is a rehearsal I go through. Do I hold my hands up early?
Mm-hmm.
Do I reach for my driver's license or not? Do I
Pat.
tell them that I'm reaching into my pocket
Pat,
to pull that out?
It's time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
So I just want to say really quickly, we are not an oversight body. We're an advisory body to the board. So I think we're being held to an expectation That is unrealistic. We were not assigned to be an oversight body. And then secondly, I would just have you, for the next item that is on the agenda, we're gonna kick it on over to that because I think that'll address some of the comments that were made for agenda item 8. So unless there are any other comments? Nope.
I do have a motion
there's-
to make.
Oh, I'm sorry, I have to make the motion to adopt. Thank you. Can I have someone move to adopt our priorities?
So moved.
Is there a second? That's James. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Great. I think if you want to add item to the agenda to see if you want to talk the next meeting about adding something, but I don't think we can add something to this agenda to add an item that hasn't been publicized to adopt. Is that what you're talking about?
Well, I was just hoping that with these to have actually a fourth topic, and we don't have to adopt it today, of course not.
Yeah.
But to rebuild trust and accountability in the sheriff's office as a fourth bullet after these are done.
Well, I think if we just listen to the next agenda item, it might be addressed. Because I think that transparency and accountability, I think that's one of the things that we've taken on. Yes. Oh, I did. Do you have a question?
No, I was thinking surely trying to fall into that.
Because we already voted on it. We just voted on it. So, but I think if an item isn't addressed in 8, then I think recommending for the next agenda, we can add a specific another priority. But it also, we need to think about where we're going to add it and who's going to work on it. Like, do we have the capacity? Does that make sense? Because right now, I know I'm stretched.
And I think though you maybe hit it on the head because that topic may fit into one of your 3 priorities already.
Right.
Yeah.
We can maybe expand on what we do in transparency and accountability. Okay. So I'm moving on to our next item, which is to adopt the recommendation for the Board of Supervisors for post-measure A plans. So we just adopted our priorities, and I'm working on one of those priorities. I'm on a little bit of different timeline than everyone else because my priority, which is the post-measure A plan, needs to be done around the same time the election is over. Otherwise, it's kind of moot. So I'm doing now what I'm hoping everyone is going to do moving forward, and we'll get into that agenda item 10, just bringing to you where I'm at so far, like a first draft of where I'm at, and then I'll bring a final draft. So, because what I don't want to happen with any of us is that we spend all this time working, we bring it to us thinking that this is the final draft, and then we all have feedback, and then you kind of have to restart. And so I think bringing it along the way, like having a check-in and then a final is a good way to go. So I'm just modeling that because we're kind of building the bridge while we're on it to see how that works and see if that works for everyone else. Any comments or questions on that? I see you thinking, Rebecca. My timeline is a little different because I'm working on post-measure A plans. And so in order for it to actually get it to the Board of Supervisors, they can actually act on it, I need to be done by the election. So I'm working a little bit faster. The rest of you, I don't think there's like a set time that you need to be done, but I wanted to bring what I've done so far to the body so you can get an idea of it. Because what I don't want to do is bring it back to the March meeting, and people not like it, and then I have to wait for the April meeting for it to be finally approved. So I'm just bringing where I'm at right now to get feedback. Go ahead.
Can I just make a comment about that?
Yes.
Okay, so in terms of your timeline, if Measure A does not pass, then then you have certain priorities that you want to put maybe before the board in response to the fact that the measure didn't pass.
I have a plan for either if it passes or if it doesn't pass.
If it passes, the only comment I wanted to make is that if Measure A does pass, then there are some more procedural things that have to happen before, well, A, the board has to vote following that, and then B, if the board were to vote to remove, then the sheriff has an opportunity for notice and an opportunity to be heard, so there would be more procedure.
Yeah.
So I just didn't want you to feel.
No, I didn't think they were going to vote.
It's not that
They weren't
rushed.
going to have a plan ready. But for me, just thinking of myself and somebody's in governance, I would like to not have started on something before you start working on something, and then I'm like, here's also this thing to consider, just to have it done in enough time so I can give them early enough in the process so it doesn't disrupt their process either, is what I was thinking. Go ahead, Rebecca.
So then I'm wondering, are all of us kind of on a timeline based on post Measure A?
I think I'm the only one.
So that means that we can begin thinking about these forums that we want to have, and kind of, even though it would seem like Measure A is like the elephant in the room if we're
Totally
having
is.
these discussions
big
about
one.
what are the three questions and the meetings and meeting with the stakeholders and community groups. I'm just wondering now, are we on a timeline that would be different then?
And I think we can, we'll do mine, and then we'll move into the next agenda item, and we'll talk more about that. But just to preface why, I just wanted to talk a little bit about why I'm presenting right now, and no one else is. So you guys were all handed this draft, and so I have it in draft form, and then I'll just transfer the draft into a PowerPoint presentation. But my brain operates in bullet points. Let's get an insight. I know, insight in the Kalima's brain. So the introduction is that, ICAC, the Independent Advisory Committee, recommends creating a comprehensive communication plan following the conclusion of Measure A, the special election. I'm going to just paraphrase a little bit, through which the voters will decide to grant the board the temporary authority. And so the presentation outlines the components of that plan. And so the goals are really to establish a transparent process. Again, we're transparency and accountability. I want to make sure that we're here to talk about rebuilding trust, that the process in which goes about, if the measure passes, the process in which we go about replacing the sheriff is fully transparent. And that the plans are outlined to promote the transparency and accountability if Measure A does not pass. So what are we going to do, or what's going to happen if Measure A doesn't pass and the sheriff is not removed? Maintaining integrity and ongoing oversight of the sheriff's office. So those are the three main goals. So the recommendations are for the next steps if the measure passes. We had some communication on the replacement process, and this, I learned something here today. So how do we make sure post-election that the entire community understands what was communicated to us? And to, again, establish a transparent process with community participation, which is the next goal. And so, again, I always bring up school board because that's the thing I know know best, but also looking at what was done in Alameda, which they recently had this issue, that for my school district, and then the community college district also modeled this, that there was a community review component of their process of appointing a superintendent or a chancellor. And so just to look a brief synopsis of what that looked like, it was a body that was us. I don't think it should be us. It should be another group of folks that applied. They were picked, and they were able to, after my board narrowed it down, or the community college board narrowed it down to 6 applicants. They were able to review those applicants' resumes, and they also had each applicant do a video that answered questions about what they would do in the role and what they saw in the future and the potential of the role. And so they were able to just review those videos, review their resumes, and give their recommendations on top 3. And so what I found helpful when I saw that was it kind of gives you the ultimate responsibility of appointment always is the board, the body, but it helped the community see, like, these are the candidates that we are looking through, gave you flavor of the candidates, and hopefully an understanding of the why we went with one of those 6. Because what I don't want is for someone to be picked and have it feel like it was preordained, or there wasn't, to be able to pull the curtain behind and see that there actually is work process and thought that goes into the replacement of somebody of this level and this importance. And this is just one idea. It doesn't have to be this idea, but is there a way that we can make sure that the community feels like they're a part of the process? The other thing is maybe in potentially doing a survey of community to have them narrow down attributes and other aspects that they would like to see in somebody in this role, to help give the people with the responsibility of actually picking that role to know this is what the community is looking for to help guide them in their decision. The other is having a timeline and updates. Again, like, you know, are they doing this appointment on their own? For us, we used an outside group that worked with hiring some executives or something of that level. If there are putting that on the website, putting timeline on the website of when everything is going to happen, steps, process. If we are going to have an open meeting where their interview is happening, make sure that's communicated enough in advance. So having a website that is dedicated to timeline, updates, and action, and when actions are going to be taken, so that the community is kept informed and is aware. And then next steps, if Measure A does not pass and if the sheriff is not removed, what are the steps that are going to be taken for ongoing oversight and accountability, so that we can address some of the items that were talked about today, that the Board of Supervisors are going to take, and to lay out those plans. And then again, the previewing the work that Alexis and Mike are going to do and hopefully present after I go on their recommendation to the Board of Supervisors, of possibly having an inspector general, and having the inspector general be the place to where if you have complaints, it goes to that inspector general that's dedicated to the sheriff's office, that could be the place where citizens submit issue. And again, looking at preventing fraud, waste, but the most important word is preventing abuse. To have that person that has the ongoing timeline and is not one-offing it, but can kind of connect the dots to see if there's consistency or redundancy in issues. I think this way is more efficient. And then, like I said, this would be a way to have another layer of accountability and transparency, and most importantly, rebuilding public trust. And how are we going to rebuild the bridge and continue to move forward together, because this role in this office is extremely important. So my conclusion is, I recommend that the following items happen after the special election, and that the board develop and implement this communication plan regarding the sheriff to ensure transparency. So that's where I'm at now. You guys all have this copy of this draft. If you have any comments or feedback, you could just let me know. Don't worry, my feelings are not going to be hurt, so just go ahead and let me know any changes or additions that you want to have. And so I'll open it up for any questions that you have now. I know I went through that really fast, but I'm trying to be cognizant of time. Go ahead, Rob.
Okay. I think it's very well done relative to an affective or state of mind type domain, so it's not into the specifics which I had talked about with job descriptions and things like that. I can, as I said, it's a good model relative to generalization and to guide us into the direction that we need to go. So that's my comment. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything? Go ahead, James. And then I'll pass it over to you, Rebecca.
Good gosh. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair, for your work on this. So we can take it back, digest it a little bit, and then email you any information that we have. Just one point of clarification on number 2, where it says if Measure A does not pass, and I don't think I'm understanding this, but if it passes and the sheriff is not removed. So I'm.
So I think. Go ahead, yeah. Oh. So I think that what I was hearing earlier is that there may be ongoing, like it may not be automatic, like it passes. It may not be an immediate thing that happens.
Right, so if it passes, if the voters pass it, then the board gets empowered to vote.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so they could vote and their vote could not remove the sheriff, could not be a vote to remove the sheriff, or it could be a vote, could be a 4/5 or a 5 out of 5 vote, but the sheriff is entitled to, under the ordinance, notice and an opportunity to be heard. So I don't know exactly how that will look, but the point that I was making is that if you have 2 yes votes in a row, the sheriff is then entitled to some sort of process in front of the board.
And totally understand that part. Just when it reads, to me it reads a little funny, like it passes and then they're not going to be removed.
I think
like so it doesn't talk about some of the other stuff of there needs to be these additional steps. Obviously, the Board of Supervisors are voting, need to get the votes, but then also if she is able to go through her due process and stuff like that to block it. So I just wanted to make sure that I was getting it right.
No, that's good feedback to put more clarification there, because the thinking and also talking to staff about this and researching it, we don't know how long this may take, so just in case it takes an extended amount of time, like, is there a plan? And if there is a plan, how are you communicating that plan? So that's a good point. I'll explain this out.
Because how I read it was like, oh, it passes and I'm not going anywhere.
Right.
Like, that's a whole different, yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, thanks. Going really slow here. Okay, good. I would just, on the section 2, next steps, regarding the Inspector General, I think it's important, we'll refine this, I'm sure, but I think it's important that the county's already gone through an exhaustive process of looking into the pros and cons, and these are a little bit lofty goals of having an Inspector General. So I think it's going to be important to take that information, and then if there's a benefit, like what is the benefit or, the consequence, and that's going to be done through research and finding things that have already not been discovered. And even like a compare and contrast to our current Inspectors General panel that we have versus having a permanent one. But I think it's important that for this team, which is why it'll take a little bit longer, is to really look at what has already been discovered during that county process. And then for us as a group to say, here are some additional things that we've discovered, and presenting those options to the Board of Supervisors.
Yeah, I completely agree. And that's why I was keeping that portion of it pretty high level, so I don't disrupt any of the things that you guys are going to present. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, sorry, Rebecca, I was supposed to kick it back over to you. My apologies.
So just for my clarification, because it's not totally clear, and also this whole Measure A is not all that clear to me, because it's not a recall, right? This is not a recall. This is a whole different kind of measure. All right, so I wrote, because you said it very clearly, we are not an oversight body, we are an advisory body. And that was just good for me to remember that. And then I'm reading this, and just for clarification, where you have in goals, maintain integrity, it says ongoing oversight. And I'm thinking that you don't mean the ICAC, you mean the Board of Supervisors.
They are the oversight body for the Sheriff's Office.
And they actually are the oversight body?
That is their role, yes.
Okay. All right, so when you said oversight and accountability, you were meaning that this is what the Board of Supervisors does. It's not what the ICAC does.
Exactly, and that to continue their ongoing oversight, because they've been doing it to this point, and so regardless of what happens with Measure A, to continue maintaining that oversight as a body. Because I think, and when I say maintain, what I mean is, because it's always their job, I feel like they've been doing it at a high level, continue at that high level. Any other questions? No? Okay. So again, if you could just email me, everybody has their email, any changes, and then what I plan to do is bring this back again at our next meeting for like a final read-through, and I'll have a full presentation that you guys can look at and give me more feedback, and then we'll have a final approval. All right? Okay. Great.
And then I just want to, we should probably check with council on the best way to make sure we're not violating the Brown Act. And
okay, so check that. Don't email me. Send the recommendations to staff, and then you guys can just compile it and then send it to me.
Yeah,
Thank you.
We'll try to work out a good way for feedback to be received in a way that doesn't generate an offline meeting.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, thank you for that check. I sometimes just kind of forget, and I go into work mode. Yeah, everyone just email me your comments.
Yeah.
Okay, so if that's okay, there's a motion to let me keep going moving forward.
Through the chair, we have public comments.
Oh,
first.
we do. I'm not doing great this meeting. I apologize. It's been a really stressful couple of weeks, and my brain is a little fried.
16 days.
Yeah. So, thank you, my cheerleaders out there. Okay. So, turning it over for public comment.
Members of the public, if you wish to speak on agenda item number 9, please use the raise hand feature on Zoom or bring a speaker slip up to the clerk. We have 2 speaker slips at the time. Nancy Goodman, if you can come up to the podium. Sorry.
Thank you. Again, Nancy Goodman with Vacant San Mateo County. And thank you, Chair Salahudin. This is really great. This is really clear, what you've presented. A couple of things I was realizing when I was reading it. One is that even if Measure A passes and the sheriff is removed, it's still worth looking at an ongoing kind of inspector general function to try to forestall this happening again, because we thought we had a reformed sheriff already once. And then the second thing is, I think from Fixon's point of view, we would still encourage ICAC to recommend to the Board of Supervisors that you be given more clear duties and authority. So, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Yes, Trina Patton, please come up to the podium.
Hi, Trina Patton from Belmont, also with Vacant San Mateo County. And again, thank you for your very thorough write-up. As well, like Nancy, I think that regardless of what happens with Measure A, in the spirit of transparency and to build a positive relationship with the community, a permanent inspector general is necessary so that people do have another entity to go to with their concerns or complaints. I think it's going to take a long time after what is currently happening for the public to feel safe about the sheriff department, for the people who work in the sheriff's department to feel safe. And so whether it's, community complaints, as we know currently go through the sheriff's office, and I sincerely think that has to change. And so I would like to see that be a recommendation to the Board of Supervisors, that there be an outside entity to deal with that information. And thank you for the reminder that you all are an advisory board and not an oversight board, because I know I sometimes treat y'all like an oversight board, and I don't mean to. Though, again, I agree. I think you all should have more power in terms of being an oversight board. The Board of Supervisors might be the final say, but I do think that this body is a good place to look at oversight and help the sheriff's office be transparent, engage with the community, and that it be a situation where everybody can work together. Thank you.
Thank you.
We do have one more speaker on Zoom. Pat Willard, you may begin when you're ready.
Agree with Nancy Goodman. By the way, I was one of the original 5 people who created Fixing San Mateo County. Our work was to establish an oversight commission. This is why we researched oversight commissions. This is why Peninsula Anti-Racism Coalition donated its library of oversight commission ordinances across the United States. I appreciate your noting that you are advisory and that you're charged with advising the Board of Supervisors. However, the state law establishes you as an oversight commission, and therefore this is what you must become in order for San Mateo County to be a county of nearly 1 million people, just like major cities all across the United States of America. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments?
There are no more public comments.
Did he put his slip?
It is for item 9, or 10, sorry. Oh.
Okay, do you want to, come on.
Yeah, Drew, if you can come up to the podium.
All right, so I'm not sure how big of an ask this is. I can think of something that the commission can do, starting like, metaphorically speaking, like tonight, to make a little bit of progress. I feel like it would be theoretically possible to get access, to lobby to get access as soon as possible to some of the stuff that has come out in the recent report, which isn't available to the public right now. And what I'm thinking of specifically is that there's a section where an act of misconduct by an unnamed deputy is alluded to, but the details are redacted. I'm thinking there's a good chance a good volume of material like that, where pretty important stuff has been discovered but not made public yet, that you would, I'd hope, within like a reasonable time frame, be able to find and like procure and like get available to the public like as soon as possible. And yeah, if it'd help at all, I guess I'm not really like supposed to show y'all right now the like section I'm talking about, but I feel like it would be a good like thing to put on the like immediate timeline, right? To dig into the sort of larger, more expansive volume of stuff that was found through the report, and make your own judgments as to what to put the most priority on, right? Because this isn't like all specifically about the sheriff. There's some other pretty significant issues in there that could definitely stand to be worked on, like in the relatively near future. That's all I got. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, is that it? All right. Yes, go ahead.
Just don't want confusion to linger based on certain public comments. There was a Assembly Bill 1185 that was passed regarding the establishment of oversight bodies. That was part of the discussion and the analysis, and one of the options when this body was established, to establish an AB 1185 body. But the Board of Supervisors, after 18 months, 2 years, whatever it was, deliberation, established in its stead a advisory body. And again, that's consistent with how almost all the commissions and advisory bodies within the county work. Advisory bodies do have an impact. They do have power. They do have the ability to get things done, and they do so all the time. So I just want to sort of clarify the record on that so there's no confusion about the oversight question. Thank you.
Thank you. We're going to add one more comment. Do you want to come up to the podium? Yes, Jackie.
So I just wanted to say that my understanding of this body is that it's taken a while to get your sea legs and kind of understand what your actual powers are. And I wanted to commend you on this item because it's an excellent representation of what your role is, which is to make recommendations to the Board of Supervisors. We are also, our office is also liaison to the Commission of Status of Women. They turned to the community, sought their input, created a report, presented it to the Board of Supervisors, and the Board of Supervisors actually acted on those recommendations. So I want to commend you and encourage you to continue serving in this capacity because you do have a great power to connect with the community and make recommendations to the board. So thank you.
Thank you. Okay. I think we're good. Any other questions, comments? No? Okay, so now, just a motion. I know the motion is formal, but just I have an okay from everybody to keep moving forward. So, can I get a motion? Yes, this is for item 9.
Also move.
Thank you. Can I get a second? Oh, perfect. All in favor say aye. Aye. Thank you so much. I'll keep going. Okay. So following our next item is the follow-up discussions for our retreat review and next steps. So the first item was, or is that we were all seeking guidance on the email complaints received from from members of the public and how we should respond. So I'll turn that over to our county attorney's office. Or was that Adam? Sorry, didn't mean to put somebody on the spot. Oh, it is you, okay.
Okay, so, I guess, that's funny. I thought you would be talking about this, Kalima, but, okay. I just wanted to propose, and this is up to all of you, like how you go about bringing to the attention of the larger commission either comments, complaints, resources that come from the public so that you just can think about like who gets a voice and how. So obviously there's an opportunity for public comment. Anyone can come here and offer a public comment. But if resources are sent, like if a resource is sent to you, Kalima, and the recommendation from the person who sends it is, can you please distribute this to the entire commission? Or if, Shirley speaks to a private citizen who wants to make a particular complaint about something that happens with the sheriff's office, like how do you decide what gets put forth in front of the entire body? And like whose responsibility should that be? So a thought that I had about how to facilitate this was maybe you have an item on every agenda that is an opportunity for individual commissioners to bring to the attention of the group something that you think warrants entire commission discussion. Just so that it's the responsibility of each commissioner to sort of decide what gets airtime, and it could be everything. Maybe you bring everything forward, but I just wanted to raise that so that community members feel like they have an understanding of how they get airtime in front of everybody.
Opening up to anybody if they have any questions or comments. Go ahead, James, and then Mike. Oh yeah, go ahead. Go ahead, Mike.
I just want to clarify if it's an actual complaint that comes in to one of our inboxes, on the commissioner inboxes, that's something that probably should be forwarded either to, the current process is to go through the sheriff's office, especially if it's timely or something that needs to be investigated from a misconduct standpoint. So the question would be, does that go to the main email alias that we have so that can be distributed properly by staff? Or is it a recommendation to refer that person to the sheriff's office? Because there's a difference between complaints about misconduct or things that happen versus complaints about process procedures of the sheriff's department. So I just want to clarify, as things start to come in, if we're encouraging the public to use us as a...
Well, that could happen anyway, regardless of what you encourage. So you can always say, if you have a civilian, a member of the public comes to you and makes a complaint about an interaction with specific sheriff's deputy or a member of the sworn staff, let's say, that something happened to them, you can always direct that person to like professional standards in the sheriff's office. But I was more thinking about a process for all of you to have members of the public contact and get the attention of the commission. Just so you think about how you want to do that and make a decision.
Okay. Okay.
And
So, go ahead. Oh, well, really quickly, that's one item, and I think that's something good to discuss, but this one for me, and I think the flavor was coming out of the retreat, was more for people who are coming to us because they don't want to put a complaint into the sheriff's office, and it's about a specific incident, and so they're emailing us. What do we do? And I want to feel like, you know, is it getting sent to the Board of Supervisors because their oversight? How do we ensure that something happens so that this person feels like someone's listening and that they're heard, actions being taken?
Yeah, I think that in the event you have complaints about specific officers or misconduct, the best course of action is to advise the person that your role and this body's role would not be to investigate allegations of misconduct in specific instances, but that would be the role of the sheriff's office, and you need to follow up with the sheriff's office. There are different flavors of that. There's, you know, employees who may have those, but again, I think you're going to be referring those folks back to internal processes like whistleblower hotlines and things like that. In terms of routing complaints about misconduct through some other fashion, I don't think that there's any other way that we would do it.
Yeah, so, okay, so that's like the clarification. So the only way to lodge a complaint or to talk about a feeling that there was misconduct or something is to use the sheriff's office right now.
You file a citizen complaint.
Yeah.
So I was just looking online, right, there's a San Mateo County Sheriff's Office complaint form. Now, some of those things, like, yes, if you want the sheriff's office to potentially do like an internal affairs investigation, that has to go through the sheriff's office right now, but some of these things could also be broader, and then I'm just sort of thinking, like, that's why you have a liaison from the sheriff's office. They may be larger issues that you want to discuss, or maybe you want Mr. Dale to take it back to the sheriff. I don't know, just thinking out loud about how you want it to work.
And I'll just add one other thing, is because I don't want board members to be responsible for the distribution of these materials. I don't think it's necessarily your responsibility in the first instance, and I don't want you to be put in a position where you make a mistake and somebody circles back and goes,
"Why did you do that?"
I would have, you know, done this differently had you advised me correctly or handled this in a different way. So I think the best course of action is to advise them that they need to, you know, work through processes through the sheriff's office. There's also processes through the county, like they can file claims with the county and sue the county. So to the extent there are those processes available, we should give you guys some clear guidance on what to do in the event you receive a complaint regarding a specific officer or a complaint regarding the actions of the county, so that it's not left with you to make a mistake or be responsible for how this gets routed.
There was some sort of, go ahead, James, I'm sorry.
Yeah, a great idea, because, you know, hairs on the back of my neck a little bit, I do have it sticking up, as we have Mr. George with us now, Mr. Dale, first name, and our other care liaisons. You know, if I'm wondering, this is so hard to talk and be in the mic and stuff. No, it's not you. But just wondering if you guys could give us, you know, some help on how we can work together on that. I mean, this is one of those transparency, working together, building relationship type of things. So I'm wondering, when we do get some of those things that come to us, how can we reach out to you all for some assistance?
Okay. And then I'm just going to add, because I know that we have the community and staff engagement. I mean, we'll talk about it a little bit, but one of my recommendations for that body is to see if we can make the recommendation to the Board of Supervisors to have some sort of process to do this outside of the sheriff's office. I mean, there's a reason why they're coming to us, is because they're afraid to go to the sheriff's office. And so to then be directed back, I think it's gonna end up with nothing happening. So if there could be, I think, included in one of our recommendations, some sort of process for the community to put in a complaint that's not with the body that they're fearful of right now.
This feels like something that should go on the work plan.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Can we add that to
And then-
the community and staff engagement one?
Yeah, because we've heard this before from the public too,
Yeah.
that a lot of people don't feel comfortable going directly to the sheriff's office. But if there's going to be a process that we were going to adopt, I think that would be something that would go on a work plan and then recommended to the Board of Supervisors for a decision.
But right now, if it's about a particular individual and a particular incident, and the person wants the incident investigated and something to come of it, that's just not what this body is able to do.
No, absolutely not.
So I echo Adam's concerns about, you don't want someone to think that they've reported it to you and that's in lieu of.
That's what I was saying earlier.
Yeah, so,
Yeah.
okay.
So if there could also be, like, I think you were working to this, Adam, something that you're gonna give us so we could email in response to that, we could.
Yeah, typical response.
Yeah, okay.
Yep, and then I'll just flag that when this question of this body being the recipient of complaints and investigating complaints has come up, and two things that I remember about it is one that, and I don't want to quote him, so I could have it slightly incorrect, but I'm fairly confident that some of these processes are just the law in terms of how these things need to be investigated. And so we don't have the ability to modify some of them. And then it would be unusual and not practical for this body itself to be investigating complaints because of it's a Brown Act body and that function is not there. There is, as we already talked about, various things an Inspector General might be able to do that's different than this body.
Go ahead, Rob.
What about employees?
Yep.
That have issues? As I mentioned before, elevators don't work in the jail. Fire alarms don't work. Sally Port that transports prisoners to courts, they have to use the civilian elevators. Employees have come to many people and filing those types of complaints. What do we do with those?
Those complaints would be through our HR, Human Resources Department. They may have a chain of command with the sheriff's office that they need to go through as well, but that would go through.
I think they're concerned about some type of retribution if they do report these things as a whistleblower.
And then that's the other alternative is that there is a whistleblower hotline in the county. The whistleblower complaints go directly to the county attorney's office, and they're processed from there. So the avenues that I'm aware of, and I can circle back to understand whether or not there are any others, are through HR, through the whistleblower hotline, and then through internal processes at the department.
I have another follow-up question. How do we know that, let's say that there's a whistleblower or employee that says the elevators don't work? What's the follow-up with that to make sure that the elevators are fixed? Is there a safeguard for something like that?
I mean, the complaints to the whistleblower hotline get investigated, and then to the extent action is warranted in response, some action is taken. But elevators are notoriously, I just happen to know this because I do a lot of construction work with the county. Elevators are difficult. It's difficult to get the elevator contractors to even show up at different times. They're famously problematic.
How about, I'm a little embarrassed because I'm fire director in Menlo Park and fire alarms don't work in the jail.
I don't know about that, but
or they're faulty. I mean, it's a little embarrassing when we're on this committee and that's an issue.
I'm not aware.
Can I add? because complaints, it's broad, right? And if we can look at multiple avenues of these different things, right? Because we're talking about if there's some HR stuff, there's some building stuff. A complaint can be, oh, I filed a report because my radio got stolen, and somehow that got to me because they think I have some authority to do something. So there's different channels on how we would handle that. So looking at it from a complaint from here to there, because my first question was like, what if this is such an urgent matter, right? This can't wait to the next meeting for us to discuss it. So I'm going to need something right now to be able to respond accordingly, because the last thing I want is someone to email me and me not knowing who else they've emailed, and then I sit on it for 30 days and then God forbid something happens.
I mean, I have no problem with, if you guys ever have anything that you feel is urgent or you're not sure what to do with, you can email me, and I will try to figure out where it should go and how to properly deal with it. What's interesting and what strikes me is that Board of Supervisors, they get a lot of inquiries, a lot of similar complaints, but they have staff, right? They have their chiefs of staff and their staff members to help understand how to route things, how to get them done. You guys don't really have your own individual staff, so this is a little bit of a challenge. So I think trying to help you draw clear boundaries for the public on this is what we do, this is not what we do, and giving you guys some pat answers to some of the more common inquiries that might come your way would be a service, and will keep my inbox less filled.
All right, any other comments or questions? So I think what I'm getting out of that is any questions or anything that pops up and you're unsure, just forward it to Adam. And then we are working on something that to provide us that we can respond with. But I think maybe just for even in any response, we can probably work through a process, like we should just CC you guys on everything. Probably a good action. Like, so if you send us something, that if somebody sends us a complaint and we respond with it, is it okay if we just respond with that? Or should we respond in CC so you're aware of what we're responding to?
I don't think we need to know about all of that.
Is it okay, like if they send something just to me?
Yeah, it's probably okay. I'm only hesitating because I'm worrying about like how many of these are going to show up, and am I going to keep good track of them?
Gotcha.
So, let me think on that portion of it. But for now, if you're in doubt about whether or not you're handling something correctly and forwarding it correctly, feel free to CC me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep.
All right, so next is to review and update our draft work plans. We had a little bit of an update before. I think what I was gonna ask is maybe like giving some hard timelines for everybody to come in with their draft similar to what I did. And I don't know if our next meeting in March is too soon, or if one of, for the other groups to do the same thing, or do we wanna say April? Something similar.
I'd say April.
Let's say April.
It's an annual work plan, so it's, we're talking about giving updates, right? Not completing
Yeah,
tasks.
just an update, like where you are, what you're gonna do, a estimation of when you'd be able to present your first draft to the rest of the group. Do you think March is too soon to do that, or do you think you need April?
I think April for sure.
Okay,
We're already into
April.
February.
Okay.
So I have a question.
It's a good time.
Yeah.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
So are we talking about using this format with a timeline? Because I don't see a timeline on, other than it's.
Well, my timeline is I've given
actually-
that I'm gonna have it done
is
by
the
the
election.
the
Okay.
next meeting. So I'm wondering, so this should already be filled out for most of us because we were told to have.
So you want it in this format then for us, I mean, like, I will put it on a template, but
Yeah.
with just dates.
Yes, some
We'll get
dates
that.
and some harder timelines. Like I will have my first draft ready for everyone to review at this and pick the meeting, because we already have our meeting dates. And that way we can plug them into agenda, and then it'll help us plan agendas accordingly. Like if we have a set date where I know, like, on this date, we're gonna have one or two folks presenting their first draft, I'll probably have a lighter meeting so that we have more time to focus on that. So I'm just leaving it to you to let me know by the April meeting which other meeting you want to do your first pitch on what you're working on. That work? Everybody okay? Okay. Okay, next item is to review the draft mission statement. There it is. And thank you so much for Shirley and Rebecca for doing the lift on this. So I'm gonna kick it over to you guys if you wanna introduce it, talk about it before we go have a discussion.
The first thing is that I'd like to correct a typo. We're the Independent Citizens Advisory Commission.
Ah, there we go.
Civilian.
Civilian.
Two typos, thank you. Anyway, yeah, Rebecca and I tried to take our value statements and create this mission statement. And since we can't make recommendations to the Sheriff's Department, which I really wanted in there, it has been taken out. But I think with a liaison here at all the meetings, they will know what we're talking about, so I feel more comfortable on it. Anyway, so our mission statement should read, the mission of the Independent Civilian Advisory Commission on the Sheriff's Office provides recommendations to the Board of Supervisors to enhance public confidence and foster mutual respect and trust internally and externally. We advocate for policies, programs, and practices that reflect community needs. We support a Sheriff's Office that upholds accountability, transparency, and is committed to the best practices and to the principles of justice.
I like it. Thank you so much. Any comments, questions, edits, feedback? No, I think it's great. It's not, it's a discussion item, and so we'll bring it back at the next meeting to approve. Yes, thank you both so much. Thank you.
Can I make one unsolicited?
Oh my God, if you must. No, go ahead, yes.
So sorry. You could consider after the Board of Supervisors saying regarding the Sheriff's Office, so it would be the mission of the ICAC is to provide recommendations to the Board of Supervisors regarding the Sheriff's Office.
Okay.
To enhance, so it clarifies that it's directly regarding the Sheriff's Office.
No, I think that's a good, is everyone okay with that? Yeah. Yeah, okay. Great, thank you. All right. Moving on, if there are any clarifying questions or anything about that, anything that we talked about, I think we're all good. All right, I'm gonna turn it over to public comment.
Members of the public, if you wish to comment on agenda item 10, please use the raise hand feature on Zoom or bring a speaker slip up to the clerk. We do have one speaker slip. Drew L., please come up to the podium.
Regarding the sort of complaint system that you were talking about earlier, I guess, it won't be hard to, do anything with the information or the sort of reports you get right now. But I do feel like it couldn't hurt to have some kind of a procedure in place to kind of get all of the reports sort of consolidated into maybe like a document or something, or like sort of any sort of online, like electronic sort of information storage system that's like secure and would work long term to kind of keep track of the stuff that's being reported to you guys. In case you do eventually find something to or find a more sort of optimal means of taking action with that stuff. It'd be good to at least document it and hold on to it long term. So that might be something to work on. And yeah, that's all I was going to suggest. Thanks.
Thank you. Any other comments online? Okay, great. All right, moving on to if we have any announcements from any of our commissioners or any of our liaisons over there. Anything you want to share? This is your moment. Yeah. No? Yeah.
You're so shy.
Yeah. No? No pressure?
Oh.
I don't think everything I want to share.
Okay.
Except for, all right, I guess one thing.
Yeah.
I need a mic.
You might need to come up to the podium, sorry. Oh, she's handing you a mic. Oh, look at the full service.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, we are in Living Care, but as you guys know, I've been coming here a lot for many different times. But I just started back in December working for the San Francisco Police Department. So I'm not sure how much more if I can stick around driving in all the time, but I'm gonna do the best I can.
Okay.
And I'm sorry I missed your retreat, but I had a death in the family. So.
Oh, we're so sorry.
Thank you.
And also congratulations on the new position. Okay, anything from any of our commissioners? No? All right, I'm gonna go ahead and make a motion to adjourn. I don't know, we're good. We're adjourned.
There you go.
I'm just gonna take that official off.
Thank you.
Thank you all so much.